Hi, my name is Chris Dixon. I'm the co-founder of Hunch and Founder Collective. This is Founder Stories. Today we have Mike McCue, the co-founder and CEO of Flipboard. Thanks for being here.
It's great to be here.
So you, going back, you were at Netscape. You actually started a company that was acquired by Netscape.
Right.
And then you started Tell Me, which was a huge success and sold to Microsoft for, I think, reportedly $800 million or something like that. Can you talk, I guess, a little bit first about how you kind of got into technology and started your first company?
Yeah, well, you know, always have loved technology. I really got started writing video games when I was in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What platform?
The TI-99 for a...
I had the same
You
computer.
did?
Yeah.
Sprites
it had 4K and
yeah.
like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, or there was the VIC-20.
No, I'm sorry.
Was the other one.
Yeah.
And my high school had actually decided to get the TI, and so my dad surprised me one day with a computer. You know, it was the TI. It was the same one that we had in our high school, and I loved it. And so I started writing video games.
What language were you doing? Like assembly?
Extended Basic.
Okay.
but I ultimately did some assembly.
You had to at the time to do the graphics libraries or whatever.
Exactly. And we actually ended up. I ended up working with another really terrific entrepreneur named Craig Miller, who had started this really cool video game company for the TI. And we were competing with Atari and Broderbund and all those names. And so we had written this really cool game. And so to compete with that crowd, we ended up
Which game did you do?
It was a game called Night Mission. Okay. And it was a really cool sort of helicopter rescuing hostages type of game in 16K, 14K of RAM. And but we ended up writing a book about, he actually wrote most of the book, about how to write video games and sort of exposing all the secrets of how to write video games on this platform. And then we shipped it as open source.
Wow.
And it was a lot of fun. And we ended up actually making a pretty decent little business out of it.
Nice.
So that was my start in around high school time frame.
Nice. And then you started another company which was acquired by Netscape, or?
Yes. Then I started a company called Paper Software. I went to IBM for a few years. Didn't really go to college. I spent took a few kind of elective courses and stuff, but didn't actually really attend college. And instead went to IBM, and I was there for about 3.5 years, and then I left IBM and started Paper Software. Okay. Really inspired. The idea was to create technology that was simple and as practical as a piece of paper, and very much inspired by Steve Jobs. Was really into the, as an entrepreneur, I was very into the pen computing kind of movement back then.
So this was like mid-90s?
This was 89.
Oh, 89, okay.
Yeah.
And so then when were you acquired? That company was acquired by Netscape?
That company was 6 years later acquired by Netscape. Okay. We went through many twists and turns in our business.
Okay.
It was my first startup, really, and worked construction early on to pay for pay the bills and everything, and it was it was a tough journey. But yeah, at the end, we had actually built the first plugin for Netscape Navigator, and it was a 3D browser, a VRML browser.
Oh, I remember VRML.
Yeah, and so we went from like building this sort of tablet type thing to VRML. So we had many pivots along the way, but we ended up selling the company. It was 12 people. We were based in Woodstock, New York, and we sold it to Netscape. Danny Reimer from Index discovered me out in Woodstock, and so I got to know Danny, and then he introduced me to Mark and Mike Homer, and ultimately Jim Barksdale and Clark and John Doerr, and basically it was mostly a talent acquisition more than anything else. But so we then started working on a lot of the early Web 2.0 stuff, and the event model and the Netscape Navigator engine. I was one of the team members on that work, and
that was really where all like JavaScript stuff was first invented, right?
Yes, and Brendan Ike, who's a tremendous engineer, and it was a really amazing time.
Didn't you guys basically like come up with the first version of JavaScript, or no? Am I wrong? Or?
Yeah, well, JavaScript was a Netscape creation.
Yeah.
Brendan was really the guy that pulled that together, and they took it from there.
And you were there through then the AOL acquisition.
Yeah, and then AOL acquired us, and just as that was happening, I started thinking a lot about doing my own startup again, and started thinking about different approaches, and ultimately decided to move on at that transition point. And there was a guy that was working with me named Angus Davis, who's a really terrific entrepreneur now. He's the founder of Swipely.
Oh, cool.
And really cool guy. And anyway, he and I started talking a lot about voice and speech recognition as it applied to telephony. And we wanted to build basically what we called dial tone 2.0 at the time. Just say what you want and get it on any phone in the world. So that was the genesis of Tell Me.